Imagine the most basic aspect of a turn-based RPG. Your mind probably immediately goes to any number of things, ranging from characters to art design to the musical score that plays from moment to moment. But I'd say there's one even more fundamental aspect that all turn-based RPGs can't do without: damage. Every turn-based RPG has some way to deal damage. Ranging from your more mundane to the insanely esoteric, there's always some way to lower the HP of your opponent to claim victory when you're the last one left standing. So it should come as no surprise to you that Ruina, being a turn-based RPG, also has a way to deal damage. This comes in the form of your roll values, with the roll you get on each attacking die dealing damage to your opponent's health and stagger. These vary based on resistances, but for the most part it's fairly static. This is the major way to deal damage in the game, and is what the whole thing is fundamentally balanced around being able to do. So, would the game even be remotely beatable without that damage? I mean, how would you even begin to take enemies down without the most basic aspect of the game? Well, that's where something interesting comes in: indirect damage. In Ruina, direct damage can be negated by a status effect called Protection, decreasing the direct damage that they take from any attack equal to the count they have of it. If we were to say, I don't know, stack this to 500 for both normal and stagger damage, it would be almost impossible for any direct damage to be dealt to enemies. All this leaves is the previously mentioned indirect damage, more specifically damage dealt by statuses, abnormality pages, and any other sort of true damage that might be listed on pages. This is barely anything compared to your normal means of dealing damage, and a lot of bosses don't even acknowledge status damage to begin with, so let's get started with the rules right away. Firstly, and most obviously, we must not deal any direct damage. To facilitate this, we can use a mod to grant 500 of both protection types to separate our direct from our indirect damage. Secondly, no purposeful exploits or glitches can be abused unless I'm unaware of the fact that it's a glitch, or I discover the tech myself. Asking for a glitchless run of Ruina would be a challenge run in of itself, hence my heavy emphasis on only the abuse of these glitches being problematic. A no glitches run might be something for another day, I don't know, that sounds pretty mad to me. Thirdly, we must achieve the true ending of Ruina. We'll be able to see that we've achieved this accomplishment after the credits roll and the start page of the save changes from the initial to the completed style. And finally, quality of life mods will be allowed during this challenge. The four most notable of these mods are No Grind, which gives us an infinite copy of a book once we get at least one copy of it, Maxmin, which will allow me to effectively make save points of phases we've already beaten fights to reduce the RNG needed, the Reset Fight button to reduce the amount of time quitting out to the menu takes, and finally the console enabling mod for if an enemy chooses not to drop their book due to stupid RNG mechanics that Ruina has for some reason on book dropping. I genuinely do not know why they exist, and honestly, I forget about it until I hit the 50% chance. And that's that. With the rules all nicely laid out, we can finally get straight into the run, and the first fight of the game is impossible. With no true damage or stagger passives in sight, there is literally no way to progress past this fight. Or is there? Yeah, no, there isn't. Sorry, I've just always wanted to say that. The only way around this is by invoking the oft-used clause of the tutorial doesn't count, which is mandatory for a lot of games that force you into silly things like learning the basics, or not immediately giving you access to everything from frame 1. From here on out though, the challenge is for real, and I'll be keeping track of any fight that's doable or not with this handy list. Every time we beat a fight, I'll strike it off this list here, and every time we encounter a fight that we can't do, we'll mark it in bold. Thankfully though, after skipping over the rats, we actually unlock something that can help us. Our first bleed pages. The 1 costs, Backstreet Dash and Bite Off, the 2 costs, Rat's Guide to Survival and Dirty Blow, and finally the 3 cost Gut Harvesting. These pages inflict 1, 1, 1, 2 and 2 bleed respectively, with Dirty Blow only paying out on Clash Win. This is not a lot of infliction to be frank, but it does mean that there's at least some hope of the challenge not dying immediately. Seeing as we're going to be stuck using it for a little while, let's explain how bleed works in Ruina. Bleed activates itself every time an offensive dice is rolled, dealing damage equal to the stack and removing a third of the total stack on each activation. This means that bleed cannot go below 2, other than if the stack began at only 1 bleed. This stack is then erased at the end of the turn, meaning there is no scaling between turns on the damage it can deal. This is honestly really not good for us for two reasons. One, the amount of bleed we can stack per turn, 1 or 2, is nothing compared to the health pools we need to take down. And there's one more incredibly problematic thing about bleed for us at this early stage of the game. The amount of damage we can actually do with bleed is entirely tied to how many offensive dice our opponents choose to use each turn. Seeing as our opponents only have one speed die right now, and the amount of offensive dice they can choose to use each turn varies from anywhere between 3 to literally nothing, all of this makes the second fight in the game, Yun's Office Fixers, hell to deal with. Our enemies have a grand total of 20 HP we need to take out, with double the number of speed dice on field for the enemy than us. Additionally, with the fact that they can just directly kill us, and the utter lack of all light economy at this stage of the game, and you've got a nightmare waiting to happen. After many attempts of this, like seriously, this fight almost took us 50 minutes of attempts, we at last got their health down completely. This was mainly a case of using defensive dice, which still deal stagger damage on deflect as it's counted as indirect damage, to stagger one of the enemies whilst we get the other one down. The immediate next fight, Finn, goes down without much difficulty, seeing as he only has one speed die and uses more offensive dice than Yun's Office Fixers ever did. Our reward for doing this is precisely nothing. This grand total of almost an hour resetting over and over results in one massive pile of literally no benefit to us. None of the pages we gain actually do any sort of status application, and the key pages have no difference at all in their resistances. No, the sole silver lining with having these two receptions down is that we can slowly bleed our first abnormality, Bloodbath, to death and get an additional librarian to use for our side. Which is good, because we are going to need that for the next fight, as it features not just the two enemies we had to deal with before, but a second phase of an additional two enemies in the form of Yun and Eri. This added layer of difficulty might not seem too bad for you, until I tell you that it takes the 50 minutes of attempts from earlier and then increases that even further to an hour and a half to deal with this reception alone. That means that, in total, Yun's office took about 2 hours and a half to deal with, not counting the amount of time it actually took to get rid of Finn. This is absurd. With that time in an ordinary second or third playthrough, you should probably already be a good way into Urban Plague, or even further if you're quick about things and don't care for the story. Instead, we aren't even done with Canard, let alone urban myth or urban legend. And you know what the funniest thing is? We don't even get anything from beating them. This entire ordeal has netted us literally nothing, other than a conditional 0 cost from Finn I didn't even really see fit to mention before now because of how little it offers us. No, it'll be another 50 minutes from now before we even remotely begin to see dividends on our progress, after we manage to take out the first Brotherhood of Iron Fixer and unlock Malchus' first abnormality battle. Here, however, is when the tides begin to shift. Malchus' first abnormality battle is monumental for this challenge for one important reason. It unlocks the status effect of Burn for the first time. There are actually 2 abnormality pages here that unlock Burn for us, but for the majority of the challenge, as in almost all of it, I won't actually realise that one of these inflicts any burn whatsoever. The page I do realise though is Ashes, inflicting 1 to 3 burn on the attacker on hit, and having a 40% chance to apply 1 burn on hit with offensive dice next scene every time she's hit. Although it doesn't stack, sadly. The 40% chance is to see if her dice will do that. Any more activations beyond that will be pointless. This page alone, though, makes defeating this abnormality critical for us, as Burn not only deals damage regardless of what offensive dice the enemy chooses to use, it also retains itself between scenes, only decreasing by 1/3 of the burn stack each scene rather than vanishing entirely like Bleed does. There's just one problem here. Malchus' first abnormality is the Scorched Girl. For anyone who doesn't remember or hasn't actually fought this abnormality before, the ordinary way you're supposed to deal with this boss is by killing each of her matchsticks to decrease her light and prevent her from using her big attack, which kills your librarian after it goes off. There's just one problem with this that you can probably realise by just looking at the footage I showed. The matchsticks both have 25 HP each. To kill that at our current level would require 13 bleed procs per matchstick. We have 4 turns to do that in, and the matchsticks only use 1 offensive die every 3 turns. To put that in layman's terms, there is 0 way we can kill these matchsticks before the Scorch Girl uses a killing move and finishes us off. So, what if there was a way we could make it not a killing move? It rolls a 15 to 20, which does blunt damage, taking out almost all of our stagger on a max roll and a good chunk of our health with it. But we have enough health to take 2 hits if it rolls maximum, or even 3 if they min-roll every time. That is, ignoring our stagger. The second hit will always stagger us if we don't have some way to further decrease our damage taken, which, outside of using defensive pages and gaining a small amount of protection, is effectively non-existent, or healing our stagger in some way, shape or form. And as luck would have it, such a thing actually exists: evade dice. On a successful evade, you heal stagger equal to your roll. This is insanely useful for us, allowing us to use a page like Dried Up against their offensive page to heal our stagger resist to the point that we won't actually stagger after a light breeze hits us. Now, that's all very well and good, but what's actually the point in stalling out the fight? 13 procs, with 1 offensive die every 3 turns, would mean 36 turns for each matchstick. Bearing in mind we get hit with a 15 to 20 every 4 turns, we do not last the 36 turns. Survival is utterly pointless, as all we're doing is prolonging the inevitable for no reasonable gain. Or it would be, if not for something I've withheld from you until now. Whenever they use their offensive die move, they lose 5 HP, or about 2.5 bleed procs worth of health. This can't kill them, but by inflicting a small amount of bleed just before they use their attack, they'll end up taking themselves out and let us move on with the challenge. On paper, this sounds decently simple to come up with and execute, but in practice, it took an hour and 10 minutes to pull off. But after getting it done by the skin of our teeth, we can finally actually start dealing damage. In a shocking departure from previous fights, the Brother Divine only takes us 8 more minutes from here, moving us onto Hook Office in the first alternate pages we've seen since the start of the challenge that would even offer us any benefit for running them. Except these pages aren't really upgrades, with the exception of Mutilate, a card that's pretty useful for being able to heal 1 HP on hit for both of its dice. That might sound like absolutely nothing, and by normal Ruina standards it is absolutely nothing, but any kind of healing for our prolonged fights is more than appreciated. Now, you may have been expecting the challenge to speed up now on account of our newly gained burn prowess, but you would be wrong for assuming so. In total, clearing out Hook Office took us an hour and 13 minutes more to do, with the temps only really beginning to look promising towards the end after we got our hands on Mutilate for the first time. And all of that effort allowed us to finally get out of Canard, and all it took in the end was about 5 hours and 50 minutes. Please help me. Thankfully for my rapidly dwindling sanity, we start Urban Myth off well with a fight that only, using the world's biggest inverted commas, takes about 10 minutes to complete. By normal Ruina standards that would be a travesty, but given how absurd the road to get here has been, you know what, I'll take it actually, thank you. Urban Myth is actually quite relevant for this challenge, seeing as not only does it hold the first multi-speed die key page found in the game, it also gives us something even better than that, as insane as that might sound for any of you who have played this game before. The key page that's better than having an additional speed dice for us is Jax, granting us the passive emergency rations, which heals 2 HP per turn of the battle. This allows us to sustain ourselves so much more consistently, to the point that the first Streetlight Office fight only takes 4 minutes, and the second takes just barely longer, by the standards of the challenge at least, at 12 minutes. That unlocks something even more insane than emergency rations was for us just before, the attacking page Set Fire. This gives 6 whole burn per page, at the low cost of 2 light and 6 damage being dealt to us in turn. Additionally, the page Taste My Flaming Bat we get here will help us out, with a neat 2 burn per page usage at a cost of only 1 light. Using these pages, we can finally begin to speed up the pace of the game, taking out a few abnormality fights and the first 2 Zwei fights in quick succession. With our damage finally not limited by what pages our enemies choose to use, we can focus down enemies to give us the speed dice advantage in each reception, finally regaining the field control we've lacked for the entirety of the game until now. Zwei 3, Molar Office and the Stray Dogs hardly last much longer than that either. With our Floor of History now at 3 librarians thanks to the world's most free happy teddy bear fight, this game can no longer really keep up with us. We've finally done it. We've finally hit the open road of this challenge, and as if it was scripted, something arrives to bring us right back down to Earth. Namely, Child of the Galaxy. Ordinarily, this fight isn't too bad, needing you to take out 2 40 HP enemies within a few turns of each other to end the fight. The one catch with this is that they heal 20% of their HP each scene, or about 8 health. Ordinarily this isn't even remotely an issue, you deal far more damage than 8 damage per scene, so this is practically only a bit of flavor text for the fight. However, seeing as our only method of dealing damage here is by applying burn, or bleed, but that would be entirely unreliable and not worth it, our burn stack has an effective -8 to its stack at all times, and every turn we spend not above the break-even point of 8 is a turn they get to heal for. This issue is then even further compounded by the complete and total lack of light economy available to us at this point of the game, as well as the fact that our main damaging option, Set Fire, kills us slowly over time. The card Fleet Footsteps allows us to heal our stagger and health to survive for as long as we possibly can, whilst we just hope for good status application cycling from Taste My Flaming Bat and Set Fire. Eventually, we made it across the line. And with that, I'm very happy to welcome you to Urban Plague. Just like the difficulty before it, Urban Plague holds some very important things for this challenge. The first of these unlocks is immediately important for us, namely passive attribution. For people who don't know or have forgotten, passive attribution allows you to assign the passives from one page to another, with a limitation of a cost cap that increases as you progress through the game. For now, the cost cap we need to stay under is 6, but by the end of the game we'll have spiked all the way to 12 cost as our total max cap. The second most important upgrade here for us is the first new burn cards and passive we've seen since all the way back at Streetlight Office, which I'm sure doesn't sound like much to you, but trust me, that was like a stream's worth of difference for me. These new burn cards are the page Sunset Blade and the passive Stigma Office Weaponry, as the most important things we've gotten. The page alone is fairly unassuming, as a 3-die page that inflicts 1 burn on each hit of its dice. But it's the passive that really lets it take off. Stigma Office Weaponry means that all instances of burn application apply an additional burn, turning that page from earlier into a 6 burn infliction page, as well as buffing our Set Fire to an 8 burn total. This is an amazing buff for us, and helps us get right back on track with our damage dealing capabilities. Thanks to these new powers, we are able to wipe the floor with most receptions we need to take on, clearing out the Carnival, Full Stop Office, and Gaze Office with ease. The musicians of Bremen and the Kurakumo clan take a bit more effort, but in only 2 or so tries they actually fall too. This leaves us with just 2 more fights, Love Town and Wedge Office. Anyone familiar with my last challenge will know that I have a particular bone to pick with one of these 2 stages, namely Wedge Office. During the solo run, this singular reception took me so long that I had grown a beard in the process of beating it, as well as requiring a fundamental shift in how I actually approach challenge runs to cut down on needless RNG checks. So it is with great glee that I tell you, I am about to get my much needed revenge on Philip and his stupid reception. But to do that, I'm going to need to explain a new team setup we just unlocked by taking out the Kurakumo. And that setup is bleed stacking. The Kurakumo have a lot of benefits, even in normal Ruina gameplay, where you can use their /power stacking to take apart any threat in your way, aided by the insane amount of hot power gain passives she has for some reason. But here, they've got a slightly different use. Not only do they have pages that apply bleed onto enemies, they also have multiple passives that help that bleed application. Namely, one that actually just directly increases the amount of bleed we get from these, one that means that every successful hit with a slash dice inflicts bleed, and one that means that every successful offensive clash also gives bleed to the enemies. In combination with their very strong slash pages, and a few things from the rusted chains, we can put together a build that is frighteningly good at stacking bleed on anyone who might stand in our way. This is further aided by Hod's double bleed passive for any fights that last long enough, allowing a clean sweep of any sort of reception that has one major opponent. You'll never guess what reception I'm thinking of that has one major opponent. Enjoy the following footage, and my apologies for the somewhat bad quality as the footage corrupted slightly. It'll fix itself for later clips, but wherever I needed to re-download footage, it'll get a bit crunchy. Sadly, there's nothing I can really do about that. That's just how the VOD saved. Okay. Now the best thing about this strategy, honestly, is the fact that I can just clash normally. Like, I can just be a normal clasher. I would like to draw, so let's hit you. Yeah, we have definitely evolved past 2 damage on Clash Whim. Ever so slightly. How did they nearly max roll both of those? Okay. Yeah, finally I will have my revenge. It only took an entirely different challenge, but I am back. And I am filled with rage. I am going to make these fucks suffer for what they did to me. 17 bleed already. I am curious. Will Unrelenting stop bleed damage? I'm not sure. I've never put that to the test. I've never put that to the test before. When has anybody ever had to ask the question, will bleed damage go through Unrelenting? It's just, it's not a thing. That's not, people don't ask that. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is like an actually effective strategy. This is a real not meme strategy. How is this working? Head to head, and then let's draw. I'll wait for the right face. Ah! Oh, okay. That's annoying, but oh well. We could have gone through that if we'd had the right face, but oh well. Like, look at him! Look at his health! This is madness. I'm power tripping. The only problem is our health values look a little bit questionable. But like... yeah, slash dice gain power, sure. More power stacking. More power stacking! Oh, I am having far too much fun with this. Okay. Oh yeah, wait. Tell you what's a fitting song for us. Here we are. Here we are. Moog. Nihil. How... 2 mint rolls! Okay, fine, sorry. Green screen dude, you really need to up those rolls, buddy. Oh, Unrelenting does stop that. That's a problem. Ow. Yeah, okay. I should have inflicted some bleed on them. Okay. He's emotion starved. That's hilarious. He physically doesn't have the emotion to use any pages anymore. because we've just not clashed him all game, so he just has to wait. He can do nothing but watch. There we are. Next turn, this guy dies. John Bloodborne dies. Tonight, John Bloodborne dies. Okay, this guy, they die now. Ah, it feels good to finally get revenge. These fuckers cause me so much pain. And now I get to return the favor. Oh, what's that? You wanna get light up? Yeah, sure, we can give you some emotion now. Why not? Why not? Oh, why are they all in? Oh no, it doesn't matter if they're only using single use. That doesn't matter, because they're gonna use 2 of them and they die! Who were you clashing with originally? You? Yeah, we can still clash with you. Click the wrong page. Oscar dies. Tamelli dies. Ta-da. Then, oh no, he's all alone. Oh no, poor Philip. Oh, what's that? You want to clash? No. No, you don't get to do that anymore. Actually, let's get that clear. You're not allowed to do that. Okay, I don't like how low their HP is, but you know. Right. Okay. If you roll an offensive die, you fucking die. Yeah. Right. Come here, you little shit. Takes -5 damage for attacks. Buddy, we're well past that. Okay, everyone but you can attack for this first scene. Is that worth it? 3 damage? I reckon it's worth it. We can use our sharpened blades on that, yeah. Because our sharpened blades will allow us to do that. 505 protection just in case, yeah. We still deal, like, a stupid amount of bleed, despite the fact that we're not even trying to synchronize, do that. Well, there's only one correct answer here, isn't there? Fuck optimal. Fuck optimal play. This opportunity only comes around once a lifetime, and I'm not squandering it. Revenge. Revenge. Throw everything I have at him. I don't care how much it takes. I don't care if it kills me. I just want to see what the largest attack I can throw against this fucker is. Yeah, head-to-head on you. Nine burn, 15 burn, 17 burn, 24 bleed, sorry, 29 bleed, 34 bleed, 38 bleed, 42 bleed, 47, 52, 56 bleed, 63, 70 bleed, 74, 78, 82, 90 bleed! Right. Let's see if this will be enough to put the nail in the coffin. Oh. Oh no, Philip, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Oh, 90 damage. 60! 40! Oh. Revenge feels good. Revenge feels good. Oh. Oh. Urban Plague. And then we can get Sanguine Desire. This isn't even our strongest form. Oh. Oh, I need to calm down. I need to calm down. Oof. Let's play some, yeah,
At MetaMasuto added $10 to the Lunacy Fund.
Right, chat. Welcome to another nice, happy video. Today we're going to be using a bleed build to continue Ruina. I hope you'll enjoy the content. You know, it's just another nice, happy, calm Ruina video. I mean stream. Everybody is doing great. Ignore the bloodlet corpse in the background. I forgot, I didn't mean to click that. Aren't we all just having a great day, chat? This is Wii Resort, yeah. I can put Wii Sports on next. Oh. I need to stop. Let's put Wii Sports on. Let's put Wii Sports, just so we can all calm down. There we are. After 13 hours of pain in the solo challenge, I finally had my revenge on Philip and the rest of Wedge Office, taking them down even faster than I had in any of my casual playthroughs. Temeri fell apart just as quickly, marking another check off my book of vengeance. Bleed is far stronger than I ever could have thought it would be, clearing these fights within turns. This absolute dominance carried us through the rest of the abnormality fights in this tier, and with the help of Burn, through a lot of the starting fights in Urban Nightmare. Remembering my proper targeting allowed us to clear out the She, the 8 o'clock Circus, and at least one Index member, albeit with some difficulty due to my forgetting how to actually play Ruina for a moment, and attempting to clash everyone rather than simply burning down one person at a time. But at a far faster pace than in the solo challenge, we've reached something incredibly influential for any playthrough of Ruina: the first realization. After having cleared out every abnormality fight on the floor, the final realization becomes available to challenge, a multi-stage fight that's designed to push your deck building and economy management to their limits. With that said, how many attempts do you think it took us to get through this reception? If you guessed one attempt, congrats! This challenge is apparently not challenging at all for us. Malkuth has so much useful burn application that, with clever targeting and a good setup, we can make it through each stage decently quickly, and without picking up too much damage. This unlocks the final tier of abnormality pages for us, and some great ego pages, although only 2 are really going to be relevant for this challenge. Those 2 are Fourth Match Flame and Wingbeat. The first is a mass attack that inflicts a little bit of burn as a nice side effect, although being very variable in its roles. And the latter gives us a lot of healing, bleed, and burn, when combined with a few passives that we're already running in our builds. These unlocks allow us to clear out the crying children, and with some effort W Corp, the rest of the index, and begin to make inroads into the smiling faces. But there's a problem I need to address here, and it's the simple fact that our progress is beginning to stall out. Other than the abnormality pages we just got our hands on, the last time we got a boost to the amount of burn we inflict was Dawn Office, almost 2 entire tiers before now. It's safe to say our damage has dropped off considerably, not to mention our ability to clash is basically no longer existent. Our progress has gone from being several receptions per stream to just 1 or 2 if I'm lucky. This becomes even more pronounced with the abnormality fights we need to deal with. From Queen of Hatred and her insane damage numbers and capped economy on our side, to Alaroon flat out not taking damage from bleed and burn. But, slowly but surely, we're still able to claw our way forwards. Alaroon actually has a really interesting strategy to deal with them, namely, gambling. W Corp has a few special passives that, at a random chance, deal bonus damage on hit. This bonus damage is actually true damage, just like the statuses we've been relying on so heavily up until now. This means that, with enough time, we can kill any enemy, even if they don't take damage from statuses directly. There's only one problem with the strategy that stops it from being absolutely incredible. The random chance is 10%, for what becomes on average 1 damage per hit. This is, well, calling it a good amount of damage would be incredibly off the mark, but damage is still damage, and so with its help, we can move past Alaroon and unlock Star of the City. Before we get started with Star of the City though, I'd like to take a quick moment to ask you to consider subscribing. I try and regularly put out challenge videos like this one, and subscribing means you'll be able to see those videos when they come out. Also, if you'd like to, liking and doing that whole hyping thing you can do on mobile really helps the spread of the video as well, letting both me and YouTube see that you're enjoying it. The quality of these videos means a lot to me, and I actually turned down a sponsorship offer whilst making this video as I didn't think the quality of the product being offered was good enough for you all, so every bit of help with the video itself spreading is greatly appreciated. But that's enough of your time taken up. Let's get on with the video. Welcome to the penultimate difficulty tier in Ruina, and the largest difficulty bracket in the entire game. It is filled with plenty of issues for us, from grunt fights to bosses that will wipe the floor with us, and we still haven't gotten anything even closely on tier in terms of the damage we're supposed to be dealing. If we don't get some sort of boost soon, this challenge will slowly fade out of the realm of possibility, and into endless resets hoping for a good outcome. Which is why I'm happy to say, we're about to unlock something that will make a world of difference for us in the challenge, and make this new level of difficulty even remotely possible for us. There's only one problem. To actually get this increase in damage, we need to take out at least one Liu Section 1 member, a reception which requires 2 prior Liu receptions to unlock. This is not an easy feat, but apart from a quick break to pick up Dong Huan's key page, as well as picking up the Ujat for more protection stacking, and taking out Kane Office to procrastinate actually having to put attempts into hell, there was nothing really for it but to keep trying. Seeing as I'm yet to explain the practicalities of how our Cactus Malchus strategy works, and the fact that it's going to prove to be critical in our reach towards this boost of power, I'll take a moment to go over the specifics of how it works. There are 4 important abnormality pages on Malchus' floor for this strategy: Ashes, Gluttony, Spores, and Barrier of Thorns. Ashes and Spores both inflict additional statuses whenever the Librarian is hit, with 1 to 3 burn from Ashes and 1 to 3 burn and bleed from Spores. Barrier of Thorns does something similar, but with an added benefit for us, dealing 2 to 8 damage and 1 to 3 bind whenever we're hit, as well as healing HP equal to the damage rolled whenever 3 bind is inflicted at once. Finally, we have Gluttony, which is solely to help us heal, giving us 2 to 5 HP whenever we hit an enemy that's already taken damage that scene, which thankfully does include true damage. All of these 4 together means that every time we get hit, we inflict 2 to 6 burn, 1 to 3 bleed, 2 to 8 true damage, and 1 to 3 bind. Hitting the enemy then also heals us 2 to 5 health per die, allowing us to sustain ourselves longer than we could otherwise. This strategy becomes even stronger the more you defensive stack, which is why we got the help of Dong Huan's page and Ujat's passives. The 2 I made a quick detour to collect before dedicating myself to this grind. Dong Huan himself gives you scaling normal and stagger protection as the fight goes on, whilst the Ujat give you early protection to both types, as well as regenerating your stagger each turn by half the amount you've lost. Put together, this is our best fighting chance against the threat spacing. Simply put, there's nothing left to do but try. And so it was that after 3 entire streams, we'd done it. We'd finally achieved our long-awaited increase in damage with our victory against the Liu Section 1 member. Now you might be wondering, what did we actually get from this? If you'd asked past me at the time, I would have told you Chun's passive to increase the amount of burn we get from each infliction, Violent Flame to further increase this burn protection, and Fervid Emotions to benefit the most from this increased burn potential. However, although those are quite good rewards, there's actually something better I didn't even know existed before starting this challenge. This page right here, Fiery Waltz. In rolls alone, it's already quite a nice page, with an inherent evade of 5 to 9, the strongest in terms of pure rolls. But what we truly care about here is the additional effect the offensive dice have on hit. If the target has 4 or more burn, inflict 1 burn to all enemies on field. This is, rather obviously, insane for us. With the help of Stigma Workshop weaponry and the other boosts we just unlocked, our power has skyrocketed in a way that was utterly unfathomable to me just moments earlier. This power is so strong that we immediately go to take out the Thumb, the Church of Gears, and the rest of Section 1 without even really breaking a sweat. This was it. We'd finally reclaimed that power I had felt against Philip and Temeri back in the early game. But I couldn't let the ball stop rolling. There are actually 2 more key pages we need to cement Burn's power in a major way. The Purple Tears and Xiao's. The former can use one of her 4 stances, Pierce Stance, to double all debuff application done using her key page whilst in that stance. And Xiao does a multitude of things, including dealing additional burn on hit as a way we can set Fiery Waltz up, having ego pages to inflict additional burn and control the field, as well as being immune to burn herself, allowing for the use of other self-burn inflicting pages that will prove to be useful to us later. There's just one problem with these power spikes. Or rather, 3 problems. To get the Purple Tier, not only do we need to take her boss fight out, but we'll also need to take care of another notoriously difficult boss fight before her in the form of the Red Mist. And to get Xiao's key page, we will need to defeat her in combat, one of the arguably most difficult fights Ruina has to offer, made even worse by her inability to deal any form of direct damage to clear out the fight quickly like some strategies prioritise. Of the 2 though, the Purple Tier was definitely going to be easier to get our hands on, with Xiao's fight being a multi-stage ordeal, whilst the Red Mist and the Purple Tier only ever fight you alone. This meant that, before I could do anything else, it was time to figure out how we were going to defeat the strongest colour herself. Even in normal Ruina, the Red Mist is quite the threatening fight, with Kelly using a lot of strength gain through her pages and passives to help her outroll you, then turning that outrolling into economy through her pages Upstanding Slash, Spear, and Level Slash, which after dealing 8 damage decrease the cost of all other pages of their same name, before drawing 1 page in the case of Upstanding Slash and Spear, or restoring 2 light in the case of Level Slash. This is her only form of economy, other than the 1 additional light and 1 additional page she draws each scene as part of her boss passive. But with each of her pages costing 2 light to play a base, that wouldn't even be enough to play more than 1 card per turn. Now, ordinarily, 8 damage really isn't that much to deal, allowing the Red Mist to get off the ground in only a few scenes and start filling out all of our dice with attacks that will take us out far faster than we can take her out. But what if we didn't let her deal 8 damage each scene? Well, at that point the only full light heal she'd get would be from each time she levels her emotion up, being left bankrupt by the time she's gone through all 5. Enter Feeble Stacking. This is a strategy you probably haven't heard about before now, even if you have played Ruina before, because it isn't the most immediately obvious strategy. Why debuff your enemy's rolls when you could just buff your own and kill them quicker? The answer to that is thankfully rather easy to explain for me, seeing as with just 1 enemy, we can stack our debuffs far higher than we could ever stack our own power gain. The build for this is as follows. 3 copies of Grace the Grass, 2 copies of Shrine of Music, 1 copy of Trace of Fumes, 1 copy of Deep Drag, and 2 copies of Loss of Senses. This is honestly not my preferred way of doing this, and when I run this build in the future, I personally prefer to run half of my librarians on smoke application through Deep Drag, and half on payoff through Lone Senses. This means that on your payoff librarians who want 3 copies of Grace the Grass, 2 copies of Shrine of Music, 3 copies of Loss of Senses, and 1 page left to do with what you like, which you could potentially use on Leap for more draw. Whilst your application librarians will want to run 3 copies of Grace the Grass, 2 copies of Shrine to Music, 2 copies of Deep Drag, and 2 copies of Leap. If we're dedicating all of this attention to feeble stacking though, how are we actually going to deal damage? Well, to do that, we're going to need to rely on a fundamentally broken status that I haven't introduced thus far because, well, we haven't actually been able to use it until now. That status is Fairy. Fairy is effectively all the strengths of Bleed mixed with all the strengths of Burn, and with very few of their collective weaknesses, culminating in a final status that is by far the strongest damaging in the game. To balance this fact, it only exists on one key page, on one floor, and cannot be moved anywhere else. To be specific on what Fairy does, it deals damage equal to the stack count each time a dice is rolled, dealing the stack damage again at the end of the scene before halving in size. This means that if your opponent has 16 Fairy and rolls 12 dice, they will take 192 damage during the turn, assuming none of those dice they were using were counter dice, before then taking an additional 16 damage and decreasing to 8. This is a total of 208 damage, and even if you don't apply any more Fairy, you will then deal a further 104 damage if the same number of rolls occur next turn. It is very plain to see that this is an incredibly useful strategy for us, and is going to be what we use to take her down. And with that, we settled into what was to become, actually, not all that much. It really didn't take all that long to do it. About 2 attempts after changing from strength stacking to feeble stacking, we'd taken her down. The Red Mist unlocks nothing. As I mentioned earlier when I was going over the Red Mist kit, she needs to deal more than 8 damage with a page to actually even begin to scale, which, you know, if you're not understanding why that would be problematic for us, just look at the title of the video, I'm sure you can see the problem there. Even assuming it could scale, we still don't actually get anything from using her, seeing as her main reward in normal gameplay is the insane amount of direct damage she can deal. Once again, I really shouldn't need to explain why this is meaningless for us. Next up after her was the Purple Tear who, and yeah, no, I'm not even going to play this one up like the last one. The Purple Tear has 2 gimmicks, rolling high and teleporting to another floor of 50% HP. Seeing as the teleport can easily be ignored by just letting the floor she teleports to die, we can run the same feeble stacking strategy we did with the Malkuth tank strategy like we were using earlier on. This gets her health down to a point where it's a simple enough ordeal for beginning to clean up with Fairy reusing on her evasive and counter dice. In contrast to the Red Mist though, we do actually get rewards from the Purple Tear's book. The most important of these for now is her key page itself, but trust me, some of the other rewards will have their day very, very soon. With the Purple Tear down, we can now double our status application on one particular librarian, practically give us an entire additional librarian's worth of damage on the field. This proves immediately useful in letting us take out the rest of the U1 after we'd left them alone once Fiery Waltz was obtained from their drops. This leaves only one more fight in the burn track, and that fight is last on my shopping list of upgrades for this challenge, for now at least. Xiao. Xiao's fight consists of 2 pages. The first, a duo fight with Mirror's support, and the second phase consisting of solely Xiao after she fully manifests her ego. In the first phase we need to deal with the 2 of them buffing each other and not giving us one clear target to debuff like the previous 2 boss fights we faced. Whilst the second phase applies Power Knot to everyone on the field every other turn, making feeble stacking impossible as a strategy, as she would only suffer from the feeble intermittently. These mechanical difficulties are matched with a total of 596 health to chew through in the first phase, and 700 health in her second. When you can deal direct damage, this really isn't too much of an issue, with a lot of strategies boiling down to simply gunning her down, literally or metaphorically, before she gets much of a chance to kill you in her second phase. But we can't do that. Hell, we basically can't even do indirect damage here either. Xiao has a passive that shuts down her main method of dealing damage before we can even try it out. The passive Baja, causing Xiao to take no damage from burn and reducing the affliction of all status elements that aren't burned by half. Because of this, Burn is entirely off the table, whilst Bleed and Fairy look far worse off than they otherwise would for taking her on. We could put up with decreased damage though, if it weren't for the fact that Xiao is one of the hardest anti-stalling bosses in the entire game, punishing you not only with her regular power null turns, but the passive 9 Children of the Dragon, which inflicts 2 burn on all enemies every single scene. This adds up to a boss that seems nigh on impossible. And for a moment I genuinely did wonder how we were going to take her on to begin with. Whilst giving that thought, I decided to clear out Hod and Netzak's realizations, which are incredibly easy given we were using pages intended for the end of Star of the City against fights you unlock in Urban Nightmare. We also took out Arcorp's first stage, who proved even easier than they normally do to take out due to the insane power of Fiery Waltz. But with them taken out, there was really nowhere else I could feasibly run to avoid my problems. And besides, I really wanted Xiao's power in taking on the rest of the Thumb, the Index, Arcorp 2 and Distorted Yan, seeing as her key page would massively increase the burn infliction and sustainability we could pull off in these fights. Thankfully, I had a plan. Back in the solo challenge, there was a strategy we pulled out against Distorted Yan and the Musicians of Bremen to counter the insane amount of damage they put out against us each turn. This strategy is what I'd like to call Netzak Immortality, and is one of the strongest strategies in the game if your only objective is winning a fight at all costs. It fundamentally revolves around this card here, Spring's Genesis, a tier 3 from Netzak's floor that doesn't see much attention in regular gameplay. Its effect is simple. Each scene a pedal is attached to a random enemy. After the character with this pedal takes 4 hits in a single scene, everyone on the field takes 3 to 7 stagger damage and the librarian who the page was attached to becomes untargetable next scene. After getting those 4 hits, you can no longer be targeted by any attack in the game, excluding some rare side cases, but most of those are bugs and should be ignored. Now, the major downside to this is the 3 to 7 stagger damage you take each scene, because over time that'll chip you down until you end up staggering yourself and can no longer keep the immortality up, which would then in turn allow your opponent to take advantage of the opening to blow you out of the water whilst you're incapable of acting. Is what I would say, if it weren't for this little passive here, Mind Hauler. On hit, Mind Hauler heals 2 stagger resists. Across the course of 4 hits, this means that we heal 8 stagger resist, or 1 higher than Spring's Genesis has as its max roll. Now for ordinary gameplay this is cool and all, and we can deal normal damage with these 4 hits and guarantee a victory as soon as we get our first Spring's Genesis proc. But in this challenge it obviously isn't that easy, seeing as that chip damage simply doesn't exist for us. Thankfully there are alternate ways we can deal damage. There are cards that inflict true damage on hit like Transpierce, as well as abnormality pages such as Thorns, inflicting 1 thrill to the target each time the Pierce die hits. As soon as Xiao has 3 thrill, she takes 2 to 7 true damage and the stack is reset. Transpierce is expensive, being a 3 cost for on average 6.5 damage to Xiao, whilst every other Pierce die that hits deals 1.5 damage to Xiao alone. But it isn't like we're on any sort of time limit thanks to another one of the purple tier stances, Defensive Stance. This prevents all negative status application onto us each turn, stopping the burn from being able to do anything against us. To take care of the first phase, we run Bleed on everyone including one of the purple tier's other stances, clearing out Mirrors as fast as we can before turning our attention to Xiao. This gets our emotion level to the point where we unlock Spring's Genesis, activating it against Xiao in our second phase and beginning a long march to taking out all of her HP. Assuming we don't use Transpierce at any point, and only use the 4 die required to activate Spring's Genesis each time, this will take us 117 turns. Thankfully, with a bit of bleed damage before the other people on the field died, as well as actually using Transpierce, we cleared this fight out before too long, and could put the burn track behind us and turn our attention to other problems. These other problems are the Thumb and Index, who fell without any difficulty, and the myriad of abnormality fights we have left to clear out. The full list of the abnormality fights we have are as follows: the Knight of Despair, the King of Greed, the Servant of Wrath, Tiferet Realization, Big and Will Be Bad Wolf, Mountain of Smiling Bodies, Nosferatu, Gebera's Realization, the Scarecrow, Warm-Hearted Woodsman, The Road Home, Ozma, Shased's Realization, Punishing Bird, Judgment Bird, Bina's Realization, not yet but shh, Borrowing Heaven, Price of Silence, Blue Star, and Hockma's Realization. This is in the same boat as Bina's. There's also one fight for Keitha, Snow Queen, but she's just annoying and I'm not really going to mention her because it's more gambling. Strictly speaking, to rank up, we only need to clear 13 of these 21 fights, and in the case of Bina and Hockman's realizations, we can't actually clear them until we have access to Hannah's books and Imperatus Civitatis. But that's no reason we can't get started on the backlog now. First up was Tifrath's Avnos, and yeah, we might be slightly overqualified. If you're curious, this fight opens up after you deal with Wedge Office and Temerary. We are ever so slightly beyond them. As funny as this fight is, I'm going to quickly move past it in the King of Greed, as they're honestly just clashing checks. Considering they're clashing checks intended for a far earlier stage in progression, it's safe to say we don't struggle with them here. What we do struggle with, however, is this fight right here, the Servant of Wrath. This is an NPC fight, which requires you to help your NPC companion kill the main target of the fight. There was one of these in the form of Red Riding Hood earlier on, an incredibly annoying fight we dealt with by inflicting bleeds so that Red would believe the damage belonged to her, and end the fight without getting angry at us. There are some pros and cons to this version of the fight over Red's, which are mostly just pros for normal gameplay. For a start, you can't actually deal lethal damage to the main target, meaning that rather than having to awkwardly get the abnormality to just below death, we can get them as low as possible and only need our ally to take them out. The problem, however, is that our ally cannot take them out. The Hermit, our enemy, is immune to all status damage, and due to the 500 protection they have, the Servant of Wrath isn't actually able to deal any damage to begin with. So after all that, this fight is impossible. We can't deal any status damage, and the Servant can't deal direct damage through the 500 protection we have in place to stop us from dealing direct damage at any point. Therefore, the run cannot reach true ending. Or can it? This isn't actually a fake out this time. You see, this challenge was never, can you beat Ruina's true ending with 500 protection on every enemy? This challenge is, and has always been, can you beat Ruina without dealing any direct damage? So, with the problems we're facing, the next step is simple. We have to say goodbye to our safety net. Before you try and argue, oh, but surely the Servant dealing direct damage would fail the challenge, let me cut you off and explain one simple thing. The Servant of Wrath is an enemy who happens to have the same target as we do, which you can tell by the fact that we can target them, the fact that their dice are red, and that they gain 500 protection as well as the Hermit. If our enemies dealing direct damage was a problem, this challenge would be far harder and, rather frankly, utterly impossible. So we can turn the mod off to allow the Servant to deal damage. This doesn't solve the next most pressing issue we have though. How on earth do we deal damage indirectly now? Without status application, that method is entirely out of the window, and without offensive dice, we can't use W Corp's gambling passes like we did for Alaroon. Thankfully, there's one abnormality page that saves this run, and that page is Greed. Greed is one of the 4 pages required for Tifrath's 5 Abner card setup, with the following effect. After a clash, if the winner rolled 4 or higher than the loser takes 3 to 7 true damage and the winner recovers 2 to 5 HP. Until you activate Nyx, which we won't be able to do until our realization is defeated, this effect can be triggered by either us or our enemies. Thankfully, with the power stacking available to us, this is actually really easy to do, allowing us to deal enough true damage to clear out this abnormality fight. If you're curious, here's the deck we use on the purple tier. 3 copies of Smoking Pipe, 2 copies of Frontal Dash, 3 copies of Bian, and 1 Serpentine Barrier. Then using Rhino Procedure, Kazuna, Puffy Broom, Internal Combustion, and Double Kick as our passives. The goal is to keep your smoke up at 9 to 10 for 1 additional dice power, whilst using the Frontal Dodge and Smoking Pipe to maintain your stagger. Serpentine Barrier then allows us to take care of the number of attacks we need to, whilst Bian maintains our draws. You'll want to pick up Love and Blessing for your tier 1s, with Greed and Road to Happiness as your tier 2s. Altogether, this strategy is more than enough to secure our victory against the Servant of Wrath, with the other librarians on the field sacrificing themselves for the final buff with Kazuna. You might be wondering, why engineer a build this proficient to just take out one abnormality fight? Well, that's due to something we need to face right after, Tifrath's realization. Before, our build only had to counter 1 stage. Now, well, we needed to counter 5 stages, with the final stage taking great offense to trying to beat it solo, as I found out during the solo challenge. So, with that said, what changes need to be made to help us deal with this? No changes are needed to be made. This build is more than enough to take care of Tifreth's realization, beating it even easier and, more importantly, faster than my build during the solo challenge did. Well, after some pottering from there and taking out all of Shased's abnormalities up to his realization, I decided it was time to finally stop messing around and deal with the final remaining difficult reception we have in Star of the City. Yan. Before we get started, you can probably see a difference in the chat below my facecam. That's because I actually moved from streaming solely on YouTube to multi-streaming on both YouTube and Twitch. I regularly stream both my challenges like this one and other variety content from time to time. So if you want to drop by and catch those, consider following me on Twitch or subscribing here to be notified when I go live. Anyway, back to the fight. Yan is not a good boss for this challenge. Actually, he is quite the opposite, with insanely high rolls, very high damage, a firmly anti-stall passive setup, and the intended way of taking him out required you to take down his hands before you can even begin to approach him. Yan is a nightmare, to put it simply. Whilst not notable enough for me to explain the strategy I used here, this is the point at which I finally realised what one particular abnormality page on Malchus 4 does. I mentioned it when we got it, but the abnormality page I'm referring to is Matchlight, and it hides a secret that fundamentally breaks our burn application in two. After you apply this page to somebody, the first two combat pages the librarian holding the page uses gains Matchlight, which gives the librarian who plays a card containing Matchlight 1 Ember, increasing the max roll of the first die on that page equal to the stack count. At 4 or more Ember, however, there's a 25% chance that this dice will explode, dealing damage equal to the max roll value. Because of this, I really didn't look too hard at Ember, valuing survivability over dice rolls. We can't deal direct damage after all, why would I care about how high my dice roll? Well, because of deciding never to look at Ember, I missed out on what is one of the single most powerful things in this game for stacking burn. Ember doesn't just increase the max value that a dice can roll at, it also inflicts burn equal to the stack of Ember. Because whenever I did pick up Ember, I always put it on my defensive and evasive cards to help me regenerate stagger or block damage, I didn't have the chance to observe this behaviour until now, and by now it is far too late to properly take advantage of it, other than one fight I'll get into later. Still, with its help and some slight mania due to rolls really not going in my favour on a lot of runs that were looking promising, we finally took out Yan, with Arcorp 2 following soon after. Gebra's realization also wasn't too much of a problem for us here, falling to the same old bleed and burn stacking we've used against most problems in our way up until now. Yan's key page will actually prove to be quite useful for us, with access to two important cards for this challenge, the Mass Attacker's Sword of Blade and the melee page Baleful Brand. These both inflict erosion, an insane scaling effect for this challenge. Whenever an enemy is hit, they take damage and stagger damage equal to the stack, which only drops by 1 at the end of the scene, dealing damage equal to the stack before decreasing. We will spam Yan's pages in the future, but not just yet. With Yan, Arcorp, and Gebra's realization complete, we've finally finished off Star of the City and can move on to the last section of the game. Welcome to Imperatus Civitatis. Let's begin. The first fight in Imperatus Civitatis is Hannah Association, who... they go out like Arcorp 2 did. If you've ever played Ruina before, you'll know that the next fight is typically a cutscene fight between Olivia and Roland, after Roland gets his real kit back and needs to kill his old friend to defend the library. You may also know that passive attribution here is locked. This means that, outside of what's naturally in Roland's kit, we will have zero way of dealing indirect damage to Olivia. So, what have we got to work with? Oh no. That's right. Roland has 3 pages that can damage Olivia. Mook Workshop with 3 damage, Wrangle Workshop with 2 bleed, and Furioso with 5 bleed. If you are unaware of what this means, it means my life is about to become utter suffering thanks to the complete and total lack of damage we have available to us. But hey, it can't be that bad, right? I mean, sure we have canard level damage again, but surely we don't need to get through that much HP. 210. We need to get through 210 HP, whilst our only possible damage is 3 true damage, or effectively just 2 damage for each offensive dice Olivia chooses to use. This fight is miserable, and I'm not even done explaining the bad parts just yet. Because we can't attribute anything to Roland, Olivia actually scales better than us. Normally you won't run into this in a normal playthrough, what with Olivia dying quite quickly, but here, we can't even remotely kill him quickly enough, meaning that he will scale to the point where, statistically, we should lose every clash. This is an entirely RNG-based fight, and is one of the worst experiences I faced in this challenge hands down. Eventually we decided to give in and simply use Maxman to kill him, although I do know that a few of the people who were mad enough to attempt this challenge alongside me did pull it off without it. I determined it really wasn't worth my time to attempt though, so all power to you if you want to join them. But do you know what the funniest thing about this fight is? Even with Maxman enabled, Olivia can still outroll us. I cannot express the sheer terror I had seeing this for the first time, that even whilst always rolling our maximum and Olivia always rolling his minimum, he still stands a chance at winning clashes against us. Eventually though, we did manage to pull his fight off. With Olivia taken out, we are now at the gates of no return when it comes to the main storyline. At any time, we could take the final plunge into the Ensemble and begin the process of finishing the game off. But we can't take that plunge just yet. There are still 3 falls left for us to take out. Chesed with only his realization left to complete, Bina with just her realization left, and Hokma with every abnormality he has and his final realization left to beat. Out of the 3 of these, Chesed is definitely the realization we want to take out first, with Hokma taking us far longer to take out due to having every fight left, and Bina... well, we'll get back to Bina later. Like every other realization thus far, Chesed's realization consists of every abnormality fight we've fought in his floor, as well as one new fight specific to the realization. These fights are against the Scarecrows, the Woodsman, the Road Home, Ozma, and the Adult Who Tells Lies. Most of these, specifically the Scarecrows and the Woodsman, are entirely inconsequential, but the other phases do have interesting things I want to talk about. Firstly, in the Road Home's phase, there is one passive here, Courageous. This is supposed to make the Scaredy Cat immune to all forms of damage, but yeah, no. Checking the code, we can see that this only works for normal damage types. You know, the non-mental illness direct damage stuff that people normally throw at these sorts of problems. This is an entirely pointless remark to make, we focused down Roland before even paying attention to the cat, but yeah, just wanted to point out how this passive lies. Don't worry, it's in no way the only one. Secondly, there's actually a cheese you can use for Ozma's fight. By having the purple tier be the one to take the transformation, you can just switch to another stance and get back to your proper pages. For more restrictive challenges, or if you really don't want to leave anything to chance, you can use this to give Ozma's ads awful cards whilst you have incredible ones. This isn't what we ended up doing. With Chesed rolling so high, there was effectively no point in caring who was going to need to use the bad pages this phase gives you. Now, finally, there's actually a really funny strategy you can use in the last phase of the realization. Chesed's floor has an abnormality page called Rake, with the simple ability of giving you 2 pages owned by an enemy after staggering them, for 2 less cost than they would be otherwise. This doesn't work against characters with Shimmering, making it basically entirely useless against anyone you care to use it against, but it does have one major use here. The copied cards retain all information on the card they're copying. So, as a hypothetical, what do you think happens when you use Rake against an enemy that only has cards with insta-kill passives on them? Well, you get the insta-kills, of course. I messed this up on my actual run during this challenge, but if for whatever reason you're really struggling with the final section of this realization, here you are. Simply pick up Rake, stagger one of the skulls and steal their insta-kill page. Then use it against Roland and the fight will end instantaneously. After sadly having to take her out the normal way instead thanks to messing up the tech, it was time to move on. Bina's realization, as always, is a nightmare for us to deal with. The first phase needs us to quickly take out 4 ads before targeting Roland, which should be setting off alarm bells if you paid any attention to this video so far. The second phase is... okay, well the second phase is the same as always, it's a basic numeracy check. But the third and fourth? Well, they're in an entire league of their own. The fourth and final phase requires us to stagger Roland 3 times over whilst he cycles through various forms. One with a permanent power null active, another which randomizes the costs of all of our pages, and one final one which makes Roland immune to all status damage. I'm sure you can see why that last one is a major issue for us, given that without our statuses, the only way we can deal any kind of stagger damage will rely entirely on passives or the various true damage on cards. However, there's a way we can deal with that I'll get back to later. You might have noticed the rather conspicuous absence of Phase 3, and that's for good reason, as it is arguably the worst phase of this realization, needing a specialized plan to even remotely stand a chance at taking out. The reason for this is simple. Another one of Project Moon's passives is lying to us, specifically tattered bandages. On the surface of things, all it's supposed to do is make them immune to bleed, burn, and fairy, but this isn't actually the case. Project Moon coded this passive with their stock is immune damage code, which doesn't just take out bleed, burn, and fairy, but all statuses. Obviously this wouldn't show up in testing because the likelihood that someone is running a status build as their main form of damage is almost non-existent. Unfortunately for us, that non-existent chance is our existence, majorly making our lives harder for Phase 3. But hey, at least this phase doesn't have the strictest anti-soul of any phase in the realization. Yeah, no. You can probably tell by my tone, but that's an utter lie. This phase has a status called Sin, which is applied to everyone every turn and needs to be kept below a certain amount to avoid instant death. If the stat reaches 5 or more, Roland will use a melee page against that librarian which insta-kills the target if they have 5 or more Sin. And if 3 or more targets have 3 or more Sin, Roland uses a mass attack and kills everyone who has 3 or more Sin. Being insta-killed, as you can probably imagine, isn't particularly good for our health. So how are we actually supposed to manage it? Well, simply by hitting ourselves over and over again. Sin is transferred to whoever you hit when using any non-mass attack page, meaning if 3 of our 5 librarians hit the other non-Beano librarian, we can keep the 3+ passive from activating, whilst redirecting the 5+ passive with our other librarians. To facilitate this, one of our librarians will have to be specially designed to tank, something I chose Maxim's page for thanks to its incredible number of reductions to damage. Now with our survival assured, albeit at the cost of one librarian's entire damage output, there's another issue we need to take care of. What options do we have that we can turn to deal true damage without statuses? Well, not particularly much. None of Beano's abnormality pages actually deal true damage, which leaves us with pages and passives that are our only possible methods. Pages are, well, if we try and dedicate any of our pages to this strategy, we are not going to be able to get past the DPS check of the first and last phases, so we've just got passives left. Ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, it's time to start gambling again. The only reasonable passive to deal damage here is Dimensional Sections on every W Corp page, or Quantum Leap, which comes specifically from Rose's key page. Dimensional Sections deals 10 true damage at a 10% chance on hit, whilst Quantum Leap does 13 at a 10% chance if the speed die using the card has a speed of 4 or higher. This means that, on average, we deal 1 damage a hit, or 2.3 a hit for the librarian using both passives if their dice are always at 4 speed or higher. That's fine though, right? How much HP could they possibly have? 300 HP. Yes, they have 300 HP. And we need to kill them at an average of 1 damage per hit. After factoring in that Beano needs passives to make her viable and so can't fit any of these gambling passives, whilst Maxim can't fit them due to needing as many tanking passives as possible, we have 3 remaining librarians worth of damage. The setup we'll be using means that we have 5 offensive dice each turn directed at Roland, for a grand total of 21.5 damage per scene, assuming our Rose librarian rolls 3 4s or higher to put her offensive dice on. From here we can do a simple calculation to show that we expect to take 14 turns, if RNG goes as it should. Of course, things are never that simple, meaning that if luck doesn't go our way, we could theoretically be trapped here in this phase forever. We aren't obviously trapped here forever, but that doesn't stop it from being a thorn in my side. With all of that complete though, what do we have left? Well, my friends, we're back to the first phase of this realization. One of these 3 phases is all but impossible at a first glance. requiring us to do the self-same strategy as in Judgment Bird's phase, but this time whilst Roland spams powerful power null pages at us, putting us on a time limit that can't be assuaged like in the previous phase. No, to deal with Apocalypse Bird we are going to need something else. The strategy is, if you'll believe it, fairly simple. The most dangerous phase for this challenge is obviously Long Arms, as if we get stuck here at 250 stagger, there is zero way we chip him down before our health depletes entirely. Second most dangerous is Big Eyes, with power null active across every page rather than simply 2 of them like in Long Arms phase. And last is Small Beak, with the not at all threatening cost increase to 2 cards per scene, lacking the power null that makes the other 2 phases so terrifying. With these rankings in mind, we have a plan of attack for dealing with this phase as a whole. In the easier phases, we have time to deal stagger damage and get Roland as low as possible before the phase switches over, putting us in the best possible position to capitalise on one of the other gifts I foreshadowed would be important way back when we took care of the purple tier. This page here, Great Serpent's Impact, which for the duration of the scene gives us 2 true stagger damage on every blunt die hit. By getting Apocalypse Bird as low as we can through statuses, we can then use this page on a separate build of our purple tier to finish off the last of their stagger and clear out Long Arms. After which is a simple case of building up enough status effects to clear out the other 2 phases stagger and finish the job for good. And, as nice as that plan sounds, this game is not so kind. As well as the gambling passives for true damage, W Corp's key pages have another passive but for stagger damage. I ran this to try and help out slightly during this phase, and honestly just because I had nothing else to put there and I felt like filling up all the slots I had available to me. This did not go well, and I'll just let the clip play to show you. I am so glad that that Great Serpent's Impact rolled exactly what I needed.
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
Twice in a row! Oh, the Baleful Brand didn't. That's really annoying. Please stop, though. What? In the cruelest example of the game throwing my constant begging for better luck when it comes to random chance events back in my face, we lost the run to having too many activations of the W Corp passives. Of 14 hits in this scene, 6 activated W Corp passives. If you're curious, the chance of having 6 or more activations out of 14 hits is about 0.15%, which is to say, majorly unlucky. This took out Smallbeak, which, if you consult our rankings from earlier, is the easiest of the 3 eggs and by far the worst one to lose. You can probably guess how the rest of this attempt goes. In the end, it would be the next run that cleared Apocalypse Bird out, but even still this has to be the worst the game has decided to screw me over in this run so far, clutching defeat from the jaws of victory by being too favourable to me. Still, with being it down, that means we've only got one last obstacle in our way until we can take on the Ensemble, Hockmer's Floor. Because of how I decided to go about the abnormalities on this floor, we've actually done none of Hockmer's abnormalities up until now. And honestly, yeah, they're a cakewalk. In what must be a world's first, we don't actually take out Price of Silence by clearing out the required number of enemies, instead just spreading enough burn to the main target of the fight that they all burn to a cinder by themselves. Burrowing Heaven before them was barely anything to write home about, that's why I skipped it, and Blue Star right after them was an exercise in running Blockma, a slang term given to running a lot of block cards on Hockmer's Floor. This isn't strictly Blockma, as Blockma uses the block cards to deal true damage, whilst we're more interested in just flat out staggering here, but the point still stands. So, with those abnormalities out of the way, will the floor's realization be just as bad as Bina's? Well, no. I don't think that any realization, standard realization at least, I'm not meaning Keitha, could be worse than Bina's. But even with that in mind, Hockmer's realization isn't actually that bad at all. I was originally going to go off on a massive tangent about how Angela is immune to all status damage despite that being mentioned nowhere in her passives, but that would be utterly useless to bring up for one important reason. Project Moon were evidently smoking something when they made Hokma, because he doesn't just have one insanely powerful true damage abnormality page, but two. The first of these I mentioned earlier, Lean Bloody Wings, which does half the roll value on Deflect as true damage. The second of these, though, has the potential to be far more broken, the 13th Toll. This page starts with a fairly unassuming statement that for one ally, every 13th combat page the Librarian plays gains 1 to 2 power. If this was it, this abnormality page would be utterly useless, and a potential competitor for the worst in the game. But thankfully for us, it goes on as follows. The dice on the page also gain the following effect. On hit, deal true damage equal to dice value percent of the target's max HP. Yes, that's right, this page deals percentage HP based true damage to the target of every 13th card. If we were to somehow roll 100 on our 13th card, we would be able to instantaneously take out any enemy in the game. There are actually videos of people doing this, but it isn't going to be the strategy we use here. Instead, we're simply going to moderately power stack, and then use the page Rapid Gashes, a high rolling page with 3 offensive dice that has its cost lowered by every copy of it in your hand. You can use the page Clone from here, a page which replaces itself with a copy of your most expensive card in your hand. 3 of these with 3 Rapid Gashes to begin with allows for free Rapid Gashes use, which can then be combined with 1 exhaust card like 333 and 2 unlocks to create consistent drawing. By using this strategy combined with Burn for the first phase, we take out Angela before too long. And before you get up in arms about the fact that I used a page and dealt direct damage which clearly has to violate the rules, I want you to take one look at this code right here. This actually stunned me when I looked into it because I was expecting it to use the take damage function, which is what the game uses for all other instances of true damage. But no, it really can't be laid out in any clearer terms that this damage is true damage. I mean, it says it right there. So yeah, moving on. Hokma's realization marked the last of 8 realizations we had to deal with before we could take the last step into the very much known of the Ensemble, meaning that now there wasn't anything holding me back. Except for doing general reception to get access to other useful cards and passives. Whoops, I'm sure that won't cause any problems. It does, don't worry, I don't show them in the video, but it very much screwed me over at certain points. Still, seeing as I had almost no obligations for the day after, it was at this point that I made a decision of profound importance. I was going to stream for as long as I possibly could to get this challenge done, no matter how long that took me. As you can see here, this stream would end up going for 12 hours and 45 minutes. This is so long that YouTube can't even save the full VOD, and the stream itself and my footage is split into so many parts, I can't show off the full timer from there. In fact, that splintering is actually the reason why I decided to do this monumentally long stream in the first place. The storage space on my computer is currently clinically lacking, and I was continually being interrupted midstream with the fact that OBS couldn't carry on due to a lack of storage space on my computer. This got so bad I was actually having to uninstall games just to eke out a bit more space, to the point where, whilst writing the script, I actually had just 5 games installed in my entire library, and as I'm recording this audio, it is now down to 3. I really need an external hard drive. After deciding to take the plunge into the Ensemble, it is no longer possible for us to turn back without sacrificing a lot of progress. We dealt with every realization before entering because of this, as if you attempt the Ensemble before completing them, you'll be locked out of the true ending of Ruina, which would then in turn fail our challenge. This part of the game takes part in phases, with each phase locking the key page and cards you use after you use them in the phase. This means that we're going to have to plan our approach carefully, as using all of our good pages immediately could hardlock us completely, forcing us to retrace our steps to try and free up the tools to manage. Now seems like a very good moment to talk about the most common type of deck I'd been running since clearing out Olivia, a style of deck dubbed as Omnibrace by the community. This uses 3 copies of Brace Up, a card which discards a random page and draws 2 at the start of the next scene, 3 copies of Ominous Power, which grants you 3 light immediately but takes 3 light from you at the start of the next scene, 1 copy of an Exhaust page to make drawing more consistent, and 2 copies of any card of your choice. This deck style allows you to perfectly loop 2 3-cost cards each turn, requiring you to use 2 Brace Ups as well to ensure the strategy doesn't get caught up on any particular step. This draw engine has one major component, however, that makes it a luxury we can't really afford to spam in this stage of the game: the passive Bottom Deal, which is a necessity to ensure that you draw everything you need to, giving you 1 additional card at scene start if you discarded a page last scene. This is a very limited luxury, only appearing on 4 key pages throughout the entire game. If we're going to make it through, we need to ration this resource as hard as we can. The first phase consists of 4 fights: Malchus' fight against Philip, Yesod's fight against Eileen, Netzak's fight against Bremen, and Hod's fight against Greta. You can probably already tell what I have planned for Bremen, seeing as we're trying to run on absolute budget here. We would attempt some form of Netzak immortality to take them out. That left 3. Philip, who is entirely immune to burn, Eileen, who spams out wave after wave of smoke grunts, and Greta, who rolls stupidly high and will likely kill us very easily if given a chance. So, with the 4 laid out, who's up to bat first? Well, one of the most unsure fights I had was Philip, seeing as he had utterly shut down one of our main methods of dealing damage, that was a bad idea. After about an hour's worth of attempts, I decided that attempting to lowball the cost for one of the hardest fights in the stage was a very bad idea, and so it would make far more sense for me to just go to the easiest of the 4 first: Netzak. This was our pistol round, our desperate econ play to try and make the latter floors of the stage become as bearable as possible. As far as strategies go, Netzak Immortality might just be one of the cheapest possible, only requiring that your other people don't die before you do. Because of this, we don't actually have to spend any of our valuable key pages or cards, avoiding the use of Omnibrace or any heavy-hitting names that could have use elsewhere. Our Netzak is running an Allen key page for its assistance to pierce rolls, whilst another Librarian is running Maxim for its aforementioned insane tanking ability. The other remaining 3 are running the UJAP pages, once again for how good they are at refusing to die. Combined with a bunch of protection spamming, we can slowly but surely make it to Emotion level 5 and grab Spring's Genesis. Now, just because we've hit Spring's Genesis, that doesn't mean our ordeal is over just yet. The pedal chooses one of 5 possible targets each scene, including the fodder that Bremen brings along with them. If they die before we can get our 4 hits off, our immortality will slip, and we will feel the consequences immediately. To stop this, we need to try and get these grunts killed on turns where they don't have the petal, a task which we pull off without too much difficulty, resolving the fight in our favour. Next up was Greta, a fight which I was terrified about due to her ability to use an insta-kill against our— hold on. The bodies Greta normally consumes count as enemies. Greta has 0 way of doing indirect damage to them. Greta is, for all intents and purposes, stuck. Not being one to look a gift shark in the mouth, I capitalised on this situation massively, using a budget build to end all budget builds of Donghuan, Callow, Bamboo-Hatted Kim, and 2 Seiyos. Callow is a page that would see 0 use otherwise, and is someone I brought on to deal with Greta's counter dice. Donghuan is decently valuable, but only really exists to bleed stack, a strategy that will be key to how we're taking out Greta. And then the Seiyos and Bamboo-Hatted Kim, well, 2 of those pages come from Urban Plague, and the other comes from Urban Nightmare. It's safe to say they aren't exactly the pinnacle of what we have at our disposal. The biggest problem in this fight now is the simple fact that Greta heals. A lot. We need a way to deal a lot of damage quickly in turn, faster than she can possibly out-heal it. And to do that, we're going to turn to bleed stacking. By building up as much bleed as we can through new pages like Laceration and Mangle, in combination with the old abnormality pages and passives we used to use, we can build up a massive stack against Greta. But no matter how high we stack it, it still won't hold a candle to Greta's 1000 health points, tied highest in the game. Sure, she has a lot of offensive dice, but our bleed would just decrease on activation until it basically deals nothing at all. Or it would, rather, if it wasn't for the ego page Sanguine Desire. This fairly unassuming page has one of the most insane passives of any page in this game. for the entire scene, enemies do not lose bleed stacks after rolling offensive dice. This turns whatever bleed we've managed to accumulate into a budget fairy stack, chunking Greta's HP and securing us the victory. With Greta dealt with, it was time to face who was, in my opinion, the lesser of two evils: Philip. By now I had settled on a solo strategy using Xiao to take out the crying children that spawn in its second phase, then using Wingbeat and Gluttony for healing to have Spores be my main damage dealer through the bleed that it inflicts. The crux of this strategy was the abnormality page's happy memories and nostalgic embrace of the old days, allowing us to reduce the cost of one page to 0 and deal stagger damage equal to the dice value every time we clash with Philip. We'd then pick up Gluttony and Spore to heal and be able to deal damage to Philip, securing our victory. In the actual attempt, everything almost went perfectly. Almost perfectly except for one minor problematic detail. The strategy was actually too effective. Philip would build up a little bit of bleed by hitting us, causing him to take a small amount of damage, before our clashing would then instantly stagger him and prevent him from dealing any more damage to himself. This went on for so many cycles that in the end, me and chat ruled that if I could be bothered to go through the turns to get the strategy done, Philip was confirmed dead. So with that, we decided to use the auto-win command and move on. So here it is, the flaw I was most worried about for this phase, Eileen. With her regeneration of ads each phase, we'd have to go through wave after wave of enemies to be able to claim victory against her, except no, not actually. In fact, my entire perception of Eileen had been built up from how we were forced to fight her in the solo challenge, where not dealing with the ads was a guaranteed death sentence due to their absurdly high rolls and smoke application. So after using up all the resources I'd been saving for literally no reason, we just bled Eileen to death in almost no time at all, before moving on to her ads and clearing them out too. Cue Invincible meme here. Still, with Eileen's defeat, we'd unlock the next 3 fights in the Ensemble, and got access to the pages and cards we'd used in the first phase. These fights are Tifreth's fight against Oswald, Gebra's fight against Tanya, and Shased's fight against Jaehyun. Despite not being able to get the Red Mist pages to discount themselves, or being able to use Gebra's ego without staggering ourselves, Tanya was who I went for first, because I thought it would be funny to use the Red Mist, and because I thought she would be an utter pushover. I was right. A little bit of bleed application and bleed-related passives, in combination with a solo setup including mounting corpses and other various buffs, would see her utterly shut down and dead after just 32 turns. Now, remember our strategy for Tifreth's realization? Yeah, we can just use it here again, except this time we get to use Nyx, as her realization has been taken care of. Oswald remains the only boss in the game to have the distinction of managing to defeat himself, allowing us to move on to Shased with very little investment on our behalf. To be frank, I have no idea how we dealt with Shased's puppets. This is a very hard fight, with lots of damage dealt to us that you're ordinarily meant to deal with by gunning down the main targets on the field before they can become immortal, except we kinda didn't do that. I thought the fight was definitively over, seeing as 2 of my librarians died early on to the fight and left me with only Xiao, Yan and Olivia to try and finish the fight off. But yeah, I guess burn stacking is simply that strong. Moving on. Hokma and Bina were up next, and with Hokma's strategy already being solved considering our prior escapades in his realization, and Bina allowing us to go as wild as we like with our remaining pages to ensure that Eleanor died, there isn't much to mention here. All that was left was to take on Argalia and... wait. We don't get to reuse our pages from Bina and Hokma? Yes, despite not being at all shown, you don't get your pages back for this fight. This is probably because of the fact this fight is ordinarily meant to be a cutscene fight, but lacking in any sort of good key page, I attempted to simply throw myself at the wall and hope things worked out. Things did not work out. Although we had a promising run here and there, the lack of any sort of good key page was beginning to wear on me. We could hold our own for a while, sure, but not for anywhere near as long as we needed to in order to kill with the meager bleed application we could muster with roll and set build. In the end, I assumed a more modest Bina clear and unlocked up pages, in part because I could have gone back and used my pages better had I known what was coming, and in part because I could see zero way forward other than simply throwing attempt after attempt into the wall. By this point, I had been streaming for almost 8 hours straight, without any kind of break. I was, rather frankly, beginning to lose my mind. I needed some sort of win, any kind of win I could possibly get my hands on. I told myself that after winning this fight I could take a break to go and make some dinner and relax for a moment. After winning that fight, I could breathe again. It would be a further 50 minutes before I could claim victory over Argalia. Almost 9 hours since I had started streaming, and a good half an hour since I had lost any semblance of sanity I was holding on to. And do you know what the worst part is? There's nothing even interesting to talk about. No awe-inspiring strategy, no brilliant difference in style that won the attempt for us. It was a simple case of one run winning whilst the rest had lost. If I'd known earlier that I need to plan my resources for this fight, I could have saved some of my higher clashing stuff, but as it was, I had zero idea and had used it up on Hokma far before. I could have saved so much of my time fighting this damn cutscene boss, but no, I hadn't. So I went off to make dinner and left chat with my Ring video essay playing on in the background, taking a much needed 40 minutes to simply not be in front of a camera anymore. But it couldn't last. I still had the game to beat after all. And so it was that I found myself sitting back down for the reception at the Black Silence at about 10 PM my time, having done almost nothing but stream that day. To call my mental state fragile would be generous, considering that at that point in time I likely would have lost a stability contest to an earthquake. With all of that context in mind, it is my joy to tell you that the strategy I'm about to explain is without a doubt one of my new favourite Ruina strategies of all time, not simply of this challenge. Allow me to introduce you to Burning Flash Malkuth. Ember, as an abnormality page, is decently well thought out. Sure, it can put out a lot of damage and roll stupidly high, but at the end of the day that 1 in 4 chance is practically guaranteed to bring you down. No matter how much health you have, if your Ember stack reaches high enough, it's only a matter of time before you burn up. The only thing that could really allow it to go mad would be some sort of way to heal, except that couldn't even stop it from instantaneously killing you. No, the only thing to truly help it would be some kind of immortality. But there's only 2 things that even remotely come close to immortality in the game: Unrelenting and Puppeteer's Strings. Unrelenting wouldn't even protect you if the damage was over 25, and both of them are removed after triggering. Except, not really. Unrelenting, sure, that does its job once and then ceases, but Puppeteer's Strings is unique. On the surface of things it says that your HP cannot go below 1, but if it reaches 1 or the Puppeteer dies, you lose this status, which would stop it from doing its job more than once, if it was coded properly. Luckily for us in this strategy, it doesn't work properly. It only checks if your HP is 1 at the end of the scene. So, for a hypothetical, let's say we have some sort of healing ability that means we'll never be at 1 when the turn ends. Something like Health Hauler or Gluttony perhaps. Well, at that point we would be immortal, wouldn't we? And this is the tech that Burning Flash Malkuth relies on. But you might be asking yourself, why is it called Burning Flash Malkuth and not Ember Malkuth? Why specifically Burning Flash? Well, that's for one very simple reason. Whenever you use a Burning Flash, it discards another Burning Flash in your hand and adds the offensive dice on the discarded page to the one used. This is very powerful for us, as both of the dice on the page are therefore the first dice, and so both proc Ember's Burn Infliction on hit. By combining this with Happy Memories to give us 6 copies of Burning Flash for free, Bottom Deal to give us the cards back immediately, and 3 Brace Ups to ensure that we can heal to above 1 without needing to rely on the 1 in 4 not proccing, we can have an infinitely looping way to stack Ember and apply Burn. Calling this strategy slightly overpowered would be a massive understatement, with any fight that gives us time to properly ramp it turning into a cakewalk. Unfortunately for us, that any fight is actually just this one. The section after this is Keitha's realization, and after that is so horrifically oppressive, there's no chance we could possibly have enough time to ramp. Still, all that means is that now's the time to enjoy it whilst it lasts. And enjoy it, I did. I just realised this one doesn't have matchlight. Does that get fixed, or... Does that get fixed, or am I forever gonna have one that's just like that? That's really annoying. Do I blunt? I blunt stagger resist at least. That's just unfortunate, though. There is nothing I can do about that. I am doomed to get hit by that, other than the fact that I have 4th match blind. Actually, never mind. I'm an idiot. Okay, honestly, the strategy of just don't get hit worked perfectly. Gotta say. Also, I definitely think one-siding was the play. For sure. Okay. This is Black Knife from Deltarune Chapter 4, I think. But yes, this is still going. We're going until I win. Like I said before, we're going till I win, so I just have to win. It's now occurring to me that counts as a hit. Problematic. I probably should have gotten Gluttony, shouldn't I? Chapter 3? Chapter 3. Not Chapter 4, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think we won that one, chat. What did I just stumble on? Beating Ruina with no direct damage. Also just a brace up. Oh yeah, it's a guaranteed living. Yeah, I remember. How many do you draw each turn? So, can you play like... Can you play a full 4 cards, or can you only play 3? That is quite a lot of burn. Man, imagine if we had erosion here. Is your legal name Coops or Bomb4? It's not Bomb4, I can tell you that much. That would be quite the questionable legal name. Ah yes, my name, Bomb4. No, that is not in fact my legal name. Mr. Bomb 4. Mr. Bomb 4 sounds like a James Bond villain. Airport security. Yeah, they just see a guy walking through called Bomb. That's not gonna go down well. They don't like that sort of stuff. They don't like, you know, bombs. They're actually pretty anti-bomb, airport security. Traditionally, they are, you know, they don't like them too much. That's sort of their whole entire job, to stop bombs, so... That's a 23. Jesus Christ. Your YouTube account to be somewhat consistent with my Discord? Yeah, very bad. It is... I've seen you in chat before. I can't quite remember who you are, but I do know I've seen you before, so I just dropped a bomb on its head. Suddenly, everyone in airport security comes rushing in. Air bomb security? What would air bomb security do? That's like the entire opposite point of what security is for. My brother keeps getting stopped in airports because he shares a name with some Soviet war criminal. That's wild. How would you explain that? Like, no, I promise. I'm not a Soviet-era war criminal. I just... Is that gonna stagger me? I think that's gonna stagger me, right? Because even if it min rolls, that's 20... That's alright, we can take a scene of everyone else dealing with things. And we got unlucky. Such is life. Honestly, getting staggered here might be for the best, because it gives us a turn to heal up. When are you getting Shin and Mang? Give me a few more challenges. I'll manifest it eventually. Why'd you pick foxes? Just, like, out of curiosity. I am curious about names. I was gonna say they call me Curious George. What the fuck? Why am I making a reference to... God, it's been years since I watched Curious George. Why would I make a reference to that? You can tell I'm getting tired because my jokes have, like, stopped being witty and started becoming incoherent. It wouldn't even make sense to call me Curious George. Like, my name is not even remotely George. This jit named George. No, I'm not named George. One of my friends is called George, actually. Unc, what the fuck are you saying? You know, CBT? I don't know. Curious Coops, yeah. feels weird finally being here for real after watching the 2 solo Library of Ruina videos for like 6 times. Oh wow. Is it everything you hoped it would be? Is it far more incoherent than you thought it would be? Ow. That is probably something I should have redirected. I'm getting the big dementia. Hello again, Hannah. Jord Bomb 4. Yeah. Oh! Oh, I see. $83 burn. You know, we might actually do a little bit of burn, chat. Group's doing a buffed library, yeah. Who the fuck put me on buffed Keitha? Except, in this strange alternate world, the hardest... Ooh, let me not attack them. Let me attack them next time, because that is an issue. If I was on low HP, I wouldn't have... So now we go loyalty. All allies gain strength based on the amount of damage the selected... Wait. And I do self-damage. Wait, no. No, what the fuck? Oh, I see now. I see the vision. Dear Lord. Yeah, no, I can understand it now. I see. I sheet fixer, apparently. You sheet fixer? Of course you sheet fixer. It's the city. Shut, I might be losing my mind. That was a good one, though. You gotta give me that one, though. You gotta give me that one, though. You don't have to give me shit, actually. It's a bad joke. But, no, you should. Sub with your Twitch Prime. That's right. I have no moral qualms anymore. I'm far too tired for moral qualms. If you want to help support me in my affording basic necessities, please give me money. I sort of need it to keep eating risotto. Risotto is actually far less expensive than you'd think. That's not me begging to eat like a luxurious thing. It costs... It's like a bit of rice and some stock. I'm not living in the lap of luxury, please. Why does Burn have no cap on RR, but caps on 99 in Limbus? Because every status is copy and pasted. That is 104 burn. Jesus Christ. Coops, tell me how much it would cost you to play Black Souls and we can solve that money problem. Okay, I have more moral qualms still. I can feel my moral qualms for money returning. 195 burn. It's a little bit of burn. I stream a good answer now. Oh god! That's 7 strength. I see. Question. Is it on the natural roll? Matchlight. Yeah, the die inflicts by this. Oh, that's every time. Oh, that has no cap. Oh, that has no cap. I see the vision. I have seen the light, chat. This is what I've been missing out on this entire time, huh? He's dead. I can start hitting her now. Because he's just gone. He's dead. He has 132 burn! Plot twist, he has no moral qualms, he just know he'd get banned from Archived. That would be the biggest twist of all. Generally getting bombed IRL? IRL? Are you alright? I appreciate you wanting to watch my content, but if you're getting bombed, I would suggest running to whatever shelter you have. That... You can watch the VOD, I'm sure, provided you're alive. No, you're more important. Thank you, but please don't get hit. If you've not got a chance of getting hit by a bomb, yeah, but like, I think you should value your own life more than my stream. I will be streaming when you get out of the shelter. That is basically a guarantee. So you can go to the shelter, not get bombed, and then come back and you'll be perfectly fine. Because trust me, I'm not finishing up anytime soon. You can go get to safety. That won't be problematic. Like, yeah, we have a lot of time ahead of us, yeah. Don't worry. Don't worry, you won't miss any of the stream. Go to the shelter, evil us found in the open group chat. Being bombed, runs to Coop's bomb floor. Yeah. Coops, I worry for your health if you join the stream that link. I look, you meant non-true end? No, I mean true end. Oh, did I forget to do a... Oh, did I forget to use a brace up? Never mind, I'm goated and just won't take damage. Oh no, I used a brace up. I'm not an idiot. Okay, great. Please help, the Rory Knight kidnapped me. 12 hours stream, gang, you need to go to sleep. It's only nearly midnight, chat. It's fine. 289 burn, you say? That's a little bit of burn. Okay, so he dies this time now. Okay. Angelica time. Yippee. You know that yippee is a vocal stim I have from a... God. What was it? He was a... He's a streamer. I can't remember what game he streams. It's Dark Souls. Aggie. That's... I have that vocal stim from him. He would go yippee like that, and that's just... Yeah. Something I do now. That is 20 strength. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. This strategy is absurd. The problem is, you will never see this strategy in Vanilla Ruina because you will never need to break out this strategy in Vanilla Ruina. Vanilla Ruina is never this hard. Or rather, I should say, Vanilla Ruina never lasts this long. So you will never get to see this. Like, yeah, that's just a casual 63 burn in 2 hits. 92, 120... You're doing enough burn to kill them in Vanilla Ruina times? Yeah. Without Myongust. Who says you need Myongust? Still somehow less setup than Tifsodia? Yeah. 120 burn. Also, just casually look at her bleed figure, by the way. 30 bleed. Thank you very much. 22 strength. That's 108. Thank you. How's map? We have red, whatchamacallit? Red strings. So this is just going to be the distorted ensemble, right? Like, we just do this for the distorted ensemble and we win. Surely. Thank you for the donation, Katsulan. It's greatly appreciated. He can't take more than a certain amount of damage, right? He can only take like 30% of his HP per turn. I'm thinking of fucking Slay the Spire. Chad, I might be cooked. Wait, you just can't... Well, welcome, Kurtzlin, to the channel. That's amazing. I can't believe you managed to gift that to yourself. Right, well, members, spam lunacy. Are you thinking about the heart fight? No, I'm thinking about Roland's fight in Slay the Spire. Because Roland's fight in Slay the Spire has a limit on how much damage you can do per turn. I am so unfathomably cooked, I'm starting to remember other games' gimmicks. I am curious how many turns this is going to take to kill. This might be quicker than using Gebra Myongust. If this fight is quicker than using Gebra Myongust like this, I'm going to lose it. First floor in the game. Casually stronger than Geb Myongust. I mean, I have more strength than Geb Myongust has. Like, yeah, you can see, we currently are rocking 17 strength, 16 strength, yeah, 17 on them, 16 on everyone else. What are your thoughts on Chapter 5? I am yet to play Chapter 5. So, I will give my thought. I'm gonna do a full playthrough of the game on the channel, because I did no direct damage for a while as my first playthrough, so I don't actually have a proper save setup. Believe it or not, man who does challenge runs does not have a normal save of a game. Just a casual 200 burn. It's a lot of things stronger than Geb Myongust you just don't see them talked about. Yeah. Honestly, I think the reason why Geb Myongust is so strong... Not no direct damage, sorry. No items. I did no items for a while. Not no direct damage. They shut it down, but yeah, I'm back. It came up because I was bored. How are you still fighting him? Don't worry. Were you here for the stupid amounts of burn? Because if you weren't here for the stupid amounts of burn, you are in for a treat. Can you see the 136 burn stack we have? We have moderate amounts of burn. Roland is the knight. Yep, that's why Black Knife is playing. I'm really hoping Black Knife isn't, I mean, it does. I'm not going to be playing this in the video. I'm just going to be going, we had the stupidest strat possible. If it does get copyright claimed. Black Knife isn't copyright claimed, I don't think. I'm fairly certain not. That's a 40 max roll. As you do. 240! 274! Toby Fox music isn't copyright claimable. Materia Collective would like to disagree. 312! 348! Not to mention the 8 feeble, 51 bleed. Toby Fox and, like, all the Calamity music aren't supposed to be, copyrightable, but Materia Collective disagrees with you. Isn't there someone you forgot to mention? I forgot to ask. Yeah, there we are. Want to see me do it again? What is the burn with the 2? That is Force of a Wildfire. If they became staggered, everyone would be inflicted with burn equal to half the amount this character has. A casual half of 235 burn. Can we address the 460 burn? Oh yeah, 468 burn. Yeah, 468 burn. It's just a casual figure. Oh. Oh, phase change. Is he just... He's just gonna burn to death. He's just gonna burn to death. Roll dice on the page and copy the dice on the opponent's page. I don't think that's gonna do what you think it'll do. You'll get a 6 to 10. I will get something considerably more powerful. White boy thought he could live in stealth, gets burnt to death regardless. Yeah, he pulled that out like he was safe. He thought that was gonna save him. Oh, how wrong he was. Oh man, I have my whole life ahead of me. No, you don't. The burn is coming. This is what you were missing way back in Star of the City 2. Well, it wouldn't have been as strong. Like, it would have still been quite strong, but it wouldn't have been casual hundreds strong, because I didn't have red strings, so I would have just exploded. The fact that she is literally immortal right now is rather funny to me. Like, she just can't die. Nothing can kill her here. Because the only thing that can kill her is stagger. If she staggered, then that'd be great. Like, not great. If she staggered, then that would be lights out. But she can't stagger, so... Also, casual, 23 strength. We are just hitting 33s, as you do. That's a 30 rolling laceration. Oh, sorrow, it's fucking hot in here. What the hell? That's a 62, casual. 82 burn, as you do, as you do. And some people say that LCB can fuck up the library. No. No. LCB rocks up, the library pulls this shit out. Fuck you, 100 burn. They just instantly go over the burn cap. Just to fuck with you. Oh! Does not take damage from status ailments. No. No, you cheating bastard. Why does Roland self-insert himself into all these memories I never use as flaw? He just wants to be included, you know? He just wants to be included. You know, guys, when you say Gebra Myongust code that for, can you say Gebra Myongust and Roland? Like, guys, when you say Tifsodia, can you say Tifsodia and Roland, please? Thank you. Oh. Oh no, he's charging up. Nobody else matters at this point, by the way, despite the 27 strength. Enough to just brutally murder anyone I feel like. It doesn't matter. I don't need it. I'm just clashing with these guys because I like avoiding damage. That is an 80. $384 burn. Sorry, 432. Sorry, 480 burn. So yeah, we won. I didn't know it at the time, but this was going to be the last enjoyable moment I spent in this challenge. But with that said, let's begin the last stretch. With the reception of the Black Silence taken out, there were just 3, or more accurately 7, fights left before we could call ourselves the victors of this challenge. These are all 5 stages of the Keitha realization, the distorted ensemble, and the reception of the head. The time was now firmly past midnight, and if the delirium wasn't clear enough in the previous clip, I can tell you now that it was strongly settling in. And so it was that, after taking out the first phase with Burn and Bleed, I decided to call the stream there. I had no idea how I was going to deal with Heart of Aspiration, and after having streamed for 13 hours straight, I wasn't in the correct mental space to even begin trying to figure out a plan of attack. We had made massive progress, clearing out the entirety of Ensemble, as well as the reception of the Black Silence in the first phase of Keitha's realization. But having underestimated just how large the mental toll stages like Argalia would take on me, I couldn't see things through to the end. Starting upstream the next day though, my attitude on the situation had drastically changed. I'd had enough time to properly think through what I was doing, and I had come to a realization of how we could take out the Heart of Aspiration. The Heart uses a lot of 20 rolling counter-defensive dice, designed to prevent you from attacking her until she's offensive mode, and so forcing you into attempting to take out her adds to damage her properly. There is, however, one card that means we can ignore that entirely. Learn. Learn is a funny page that ordinarily doesn't see much use at all, allowing you to copy the dice of one of your opponent's attacks, but not its special effects. In most cases, this is almost entirely useless, with mirror matches generally being a bad call unless you're confident your strength stacking is good enough to see through. There is, however, one strange interaction that makes it very powerful here, and that's the fact that it makes counter dice able to clash like normal dice. For the most part, this is probably actually a negative, but here and now it allows us to do something very funny. We can stagger the Heart of Aspiration. By staggering the heart, we stop her in her tracks, clearing all of the hankering that builds up during the fight that ordinarily gives her far more strength than we'd like to deal with, as well as then resetting her timer to go on the offensive to its start. This allows us to easily shut her down, clearing the fight out with only a few minor mishaps along the way. Next up from there was Pinocchio, who typically attempts to use the fact that it copies your cards and gains strength or endurance to boot, but it gives us back one important boon in return, or technically two. The cost of every page in your hands are randomized between 0 to 3, and every turn your hand is made to contain exactly 4 cards. We can abuse this to spam offensive burn cards, also then clearing the stage before too long as well. This brings us onto the Snow Queen, who... well, the gimmick of the Snow Queen is fairly simple for a normal playthrough. She locks 4 of your librarians in ice and forces you to damage those prisons to set them free to attack on your side. There's just one issue with that plan for us, and it's an issue you're probably familiar with by now. Because Angela can't have any passives attributed to her, the only way you can take down these 100 health constructs is through the damage from one singular page. Specifically the ego page, the Will to Stand Up Straight, which inflicts a grand total of 5 burn. We need to take out 100 HP enemies, 5 burn at a time. This fight is a nightmare RNG check that, believe it or not, we were close to defeating on one of my first tries. But after a string of bad evades threw away a run that should have won, me and chat decided to simply use Maxmin to get over the stupid RNG that this phase could otherwise require. It still took an age, but after thawing my librarians we could begin to stack erosion up on the Snow Queen and take her out, by which point I stopped using Maxmin because it was no longer an RNG check. This was by far the second most annoying phase for this challenge, up there with the other horrific RNG check of Wrist Cutter that we got through without much note. So this is it, the last phase of this realization, the final stretch before we reach the distorted and yeah no, she's a pushover. The Silent Girl herself doesn't take status damage, but that's nothing we can't resolve through the true damage that Castigation deals, as well as the gambling passes we've relied on for every other situation like this one. Apart from one stupid low roller game threw at me, we had no issues with this phase. So here we are, the distorted Ensemble and the actual final stream of this challenge. What I can't really show you at this point in time is my mentality going into this final stream. Despite my saying that the key to realization was easy and that we cleared it out without much difficulty, I haven't actually been able to show you just how much time I spent trying to clear each and every stage. And the worst part is, the strategies I was using to clear them weren't even really unique. Each and every phase was simply a case of finding out what the most effective method is to burn my enemies to death. I'm going to take a moment to talk about my opinions on this challenge before we enter the final real fight we need to take care of. I think this challenge is brilliant, until you reach Impuritus and start to take on the final realizations. Ruina is a game with a lot of flexibility, which is evident in the fact that we could even make it here to begin with. But you can tell that it was not intended for a challenge like this, and nowhere is that more clear than as you approach the end of the game. Fights like Olivia, Argalia, and Snow Queen have one intended solution in mind, and it is clear my antics are not appreciated here. Things that should be cutscenes are instead warped into nightmarish roadblocks that are nothing but misery to attempt to break through. And, unlike in the solo challenge, after a while these roadblocks aren't even fun anymore. Almost none of the builds I used after taking out Olivia strayed from Omnibrace as their core base, with the only builds that did either being because we had to save our resources, or because we needed a certain amount of cards to reach something like Blade and Lock to enable its strategy. Sure, there were glimmers of hope here and there, like burning Flash Malkuth or using Learn to abuse the Heart of Aspiration's counter dice to shut it down, but apart from that, we honestly really stopped changing once we unlocked Xiao and Fiery Waltz. And, as past me faced an obstacle he did not want to overcome, there's a bit of advice I want to impart. Just because a game has a true ending, or some ultimate final goal, that doesn't mean you need to reach it to be content. At first I was doing this challenge because I enjoyed it, because I found the strategies unique and interesting to engage with. But here and now, as we stand right before the end, I simply want it to all be over. A lot of people during the stream said you should take a break, and even when I said that I wasn't having fun anymore, voiced their complete support for me stopping and resolving this video, with a point on how just because something is there doesn't mean you need to do it. But as much as I wish they were right, they aren't. For now, I am a challenge running YouTuber. This entire channel is built upon me torturing myself for the entertainment of others. And for the most part, I don't mind. If I can bring enjoyment to other people, if I can give them a refuge from their day-to-day life, I've done my job well. But that doesn't mean I can simply upload what I like. There are other videos on this channel that, statistically, you probably don't know about. Videos like my analysis of The Ring and how they were inspired by the real world, or videos on Ruina's multiplayer mod. Hell, even videos that have nothing to do with Project Moon at all. But between them all, there's one common through line. The only thing that sells is a challenge, and the more insane that challenge is, the better it does. So, even at my lowest, even as I tear myself apart with self-loathing and self-doubt, I only have one choice I can make. I have to keep fighting. So, for one final time, let's go over what we need to face. The first phase in the Ensemble consists of 4 enemies: Philip, Bremer, Greta, and Eileen. Bremen and Eileen are mostly buffing characters, with Philip and Greta being the main concerns when it comes to damaging ability. As the combat goes on, Bremen will buff one random character with strength, endurance, or haste equal to the amount of light they have. If this gives Philip strength at an inopportune moment, it does just spell death for us, with promising runs dying out even after we achieve the setup we wanted simply due to bad luck. Eileen is considerably less of a problem when it comes to buffing characters, as although she does give every enemy the smoke passive, if we take out Philip and Bremen first, she's left mostly unable to even hit us. Philip's major problem is that he just rolls really high, a trait that is also shared by Greta but is most notable on Philip. The tactic we used for this was our classic Tifrith gambit, although due to sheer bad luck it took us far too many tries to actually see it pay off, with some of the successful runs dying right at the line at which they should have taken off, simply because of bad luck. At one point I used Bina to soften up the realization to move on from this first phase, but because we need her later, clearing with Tiff was really the only thing we could do. The second phase of this fight is a fair bit more relaxed for us, with Tifrith's build being fully set up. That isn't to say it's easy though, because of one continual gimmick. That gimmick is red strings, and requires us to continually clip the status off of ourselves by winning against a page used by our enemies. This should be easy for us. After all, we gain a ton of power and give our enemies 5 power loss to both offensive and defensive dice each turn. If you notice the should I used there, that's because there's one insanely important part of this page that Project Moon just doesn't mention at all for literally no reason. The page, Red Strings, has built-in power null. The card just flat out doesn't mention this, almost getting us killed in the process, as I expected this 10-10 to roll a 5 and planned around that. Thankfully there's still enough time to course correct and get it off before we die, but to say it isn't close would be very off the mark. In our attempt that gets through, Mixed Rabbit even spawns for some reason. Honestly, I'm not really sure, this game does some weird things when you don't blaze through it at the pace it expects you to. And with that, we're on to the final phase. Argalia, Eleanor, Pluto, and one spawned clone. And with that, our final epic stand began. We died. After having spent over an hour trying to get to this point, with the last remaining space ticking down on my hard drive before I wouldn't even be able to record the challenge anymore, this was the last straw. This was it. The end. Everything had led to this point, and right at the end, it was going to be a failure all along. Except, no. No, I hadn't come this far for it to be a loss at the very end. I wouldn't allow this to be the end. Picking myself back up, and getting through the first few phases again, we retried the final phase before dying. And then again, and again, and again. It had gotten to the point where I agree with chat that we could skip straight to the final phase, seeing as the first two would almost entirely kill Tifrith, and so we ruled that we could simply sacrifice her to let us attempt the final phase without the time investment. And even then, I couldn't see the path forwards. The wall felt impossible. entirely unimaginably strong, until we finally manage to activate the beast. This gives every one of our enemies power null and deals true damage to everyone on field each turn. Other times this has failed because of Big Eyes targeting too many attacks towards Bina and getting her killed, but for once it worked out. Capitalizing on this let us take out Pluto with his ad going with him. Bina was permanently at the edge of death now, her healing being the only thing stopping her from completely falling apart and losing us the day. And as the other members on our team fell apart from the constant damage from the beast, we continued to claw forwards. Before too long, Eleanor fell too. And last of all, it was Argalia's time to go. We had done it. Taking out the head as a technicality, we could see the final scene we'd been waiting for all this time. The challenge was complete. Except, there was one fight that we never completed. One fight from all that time ago that we'd never been able to do. The rats. It was time to pay a visit to our old enemies. And there we are. If you've enjoyed this video, please do consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and potentially following on Twitch to be kept up to date with when I stream in the future. I'll likely be live on the day this video is out, as I try to stream every day, so please do consider dropping by to catch that. If you've got any feedback from this video, things you think might be interesting for me to try in the future, or even just general comments, I'd love to see them down below or in the Discord server. Before I close the book on this monumental challenge though, I'd just like to thank the members. You all make this possible, and let me be picky about what sponsors I take and when. Hopefully the sneak peeks you got of this video along the way could show a bit of my appreciation for you all. And finally, thank you, the viewer. If you've made it this far, all I can say is that I hope you've enjoyed, and that no matter what you're going through now, I'm sure you can make it through. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'll see you next time.